Okay, well, here we are, Eurosys 2024. I'm here with Marcel Herz from Tiliter. Nice to meet you. And we're very honored. You're the first ever guest of our CPI Thoughtcast, so thank you.
I'm honored. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. It's been great. So, could you tell us a little bit about your role, your company? Just give us a bit of background.
Cool. Yep. So my name is Marcel. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Tiliter. We're a company that was founded around 7 years ago in Australia with the idea of bringing computer vision to the world. And one of our first use cases was fruit and vegetables for the retail sector. That's probably what we're having this talk.
Absolutely. Yes. So how did that come about? How did you come into that kind of realm? What's your background, retail?
Yeah, so I'm originally from Germany and I moved over to Australia around 10, 11 years ago. And, worked like a couple of different jobs, one of them in the construction industry, and then finished my master's in biomedical engineering. And that's where I met my co-founder and CTO, Chris. And, we had like a couple of subjects together. And one of them that really stuck with me was medical imaging. So in medical imaging, what you would do is you would, understand all the basics and principles of MRI scans, CT scans, and so forth. And one of them was using computer vision to identify cancer cells in MRI scans. And that's the first time we really got to know anything about AI, computer vision. Keep in mind, that's like 2015, 2016. So the whole AI buzzword, as we hear now at Eurosys everywhere, was just not there, right? No one knew what it actually was, right? Like everyone's thinking about Terminator back then. So we're thinking, okay, this is really interesting, right? Like you can use that technology, you can run it on your laptop, you don't need a supercomputer somewhere.
Yeah.
And how can we utilize this kind of technology and harvesting? And we thought about a couple of problems, and medical is always tough, right? Like if you don't have the connections, you don't get the data, so you can't really do anything. And we just stumbled upon fruit and vegetables. So interestingly, in Australia, very similar to the UK, you have a lot of self-service checkouts. So over 50-60% of transactions go through self-service checkouts. And I think we just wanted to buy some stuff for a party and then go to the self-checkout. And we put down a couple of apples and, you have these big clunky menus. And you say, what? Well, what? You need to choose from all of them? You don't even know what that is, right? And we're like, oh my God, this is kind of like that moment where you realize, just put a camera here, identify the item, you should be good to go, right? But let's do this for 3 months, 6 months, and then we move on to the next project.
Yeah.
Here we are 7 years later.
Never.
We'll still try to solve the same problem, and other problems appear, right? Like sometimes it's not just about the technology, but it's about integration, customer relationships, internal battles within companies. And we're still doing the same thing. We're still trying to do fresh produce identification, but also bakery, nuts, anything that is a loose item. Yeah, this is really where we see the majority of value proposition that we provide.
Perfect. And you guys are exhibiting here?
Yes. So we're at Hall 10. G06, I believe. I remember. Yeah, that's right next to the Eurosys stand. So it's hard to remember.
Cool. The first time at Eurosys, or you've been here a couple of years?
We have never exhibited at Eurosys before, but I've been here. So, being originally from this area, that's something that I've been doing for 4 or 5 years. Been coming here regularly, like Euroshop, Eurosys. Yeah.
Nice. So I know you told us a little bit about Tiliter already. Could you give us the main problems you solved? Obviously, instant recognition of products, but kind of a 60-second elevator pitch of how Tiliter's different to different solutions.
Yeah. So, when you think about checkouts, this is one of the problems that we're trying to solve, right? Like at the point of sale. And there are a couple of things that come to mind when you hear about it, right? Like it's the long time that it takes cashiers and customers to really select the right item or memorize PLU codes, which is something that we've been having for the last 50, 60 years, right? And what we're trying to do is bring computer vision to the world by identifying the items, but identifying them items accurately. So this is kind of our value proposition is all around clean data. So what we're really trying to do is giving the customers the best experience that they can get. That there are certain accuracy levels right now that cashiers might have, or, even shoppers. And we are trying to achieve, much better accuracy. So we're sitting at 97% accuracy, where majority of cashiers sitting at 94% accuracy and shoppers at 90 to 85% accuracy. And what you're kind of like trying to do is that gap, like that needs to be meaningful, right? And so what we're doing with our approach is like really building scalable AI technology rather than, like trying to do, and we've seen this before, right? Like people just collecting data, trying to run machine learning models and learning on the fly.
Yeah.
We believe with loose items, this is not the way to go because you will never really have scalability. And scalability is what matters, right? If I can deploy today to a retailer in Spain, on Portugal, or in Poland, then this is better than, supplying a system that takes, 3 to 6 months to learn. Sure. That's really the value proposition that we bring, technology that works today, not tomorrow.
Got you. But at the retail level, it's mainly around speed through the checkout and accuracy.
So there are a couple of things, especially like the last 2 years have changed that, I would say, where in the past it was all about efficiency, increasing efficiency, increasing customer experience. The last 2 years have really been about reducing fraud and loss.
Yeah.
External shrinkage, how they like to call it. And it's about people, scanning like very expensive items such as ginger or steaks as onions. And then you have occasionally people that just don't know any better, right? Like it might type in the wrong apple or the wrong pear, right? Because they don't know what kind of variety they just bought. That is really the shift that happened, I think, over the last 2 years. I think sometimes it gets a little bit exaggerated and people just like fraud. When in reality, also there are a lot of other problems that we have, like supply chains and, a lot of stock that, extend that problem even further. But I would say it's training period for cashiers. And that's one thing that we see, right? Like staff turnover rates are through the roof, right? We're sitting at like 50, 60%. That means that like every couple of months, like you need to train new people.
Yeah.
That means like even if you have a cashier, say from, Aldi now moving over to a different company, the PAU codes are different. Yeah. So now you need to relearn all of that. That's what was muscle memory before.
Yeah.
And that's what we're trying to solve. Yeah, efficiency increasing. So like we see like normally like checkout speeds increase by 60 to 90%, depending on the self-checkout, but also depending on the variety of food someone offers. We've got customers that offer up to like 250 different varieties of apples, different varieties of fresh produce, right? Like no customer can look through that.
Yeah.
Not.
No, that's great. So you're actually recognizing not that it's just an apple, it's a Braeburn or it's a Pink Lady or...
Correct. This is where the value comes from, right? If you just have, we call them archetypes, right? Like if you just have someone like a category like Apple, it's very hard then for the customer like to still identify the right variety. Mm-hmm. I mean, I've seen things where people have to differentiate between a fruit and a vegetable. Yeah. A lot of people don't know what is a fruit and what is a vegetable, right?
Yeah. Just know it's good for me.
Whatever. Like, whatever, just give me some options here.
Yeah, that makes sense. So you said you were based in Australia, is that right?
Correct.
What regions are you serving right now? Is it Australia? Is it Europe? Is it everywhere?
So Australia is really where we have the majority of market share. Okay. So we are in over 1,000 stores there. Right now, AI software is live in 900 stores. And right now we're expanding over to Europe. So we're looking for partners. We've already found some partners, especially here in the DACH region. But, Europe is a big place.
Yeah. And complex as well.
It's complex. You have the different languages, right? That's always a problem to scale your sales team, to scale your partners, right? You need people like that speak that language, right? Yeah. But it's being used. So, that's right now. And then the US is probably like still 1.5 years away, right, from really attacking it. And with attacking, what we mean is like nationwide rollouts.
Got you. So are you building up a bit of a team over in Europe, or are you still...
Right.
Oh, you're doing all the travel?
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's the good thing about it. They've been...
That definitely helps, I can imagine. Could you, because obviously we talked a little bit about what you guys do, give us a recent project that you guys do, which is maybe a good example of how you provided value for customers?
Yeah, so with Woolworths Supermarkets, which is like the largest retailer in the APAC region, we recently rolled out our AI software. We had the hardware out already, but we recently rolled out the AI software in over 900 stores. There's going to be another 100 stores, and then all of their stores will have AI. And it's, like for people that know us already, we used to do a lot of like scales, right? So like retail scales, you find it from the vegetable department.
Right.
And, like the value proposition was a variety of different use cases, actually, from scan and go, right? Like where you'd identify the correct item, to e-commerce applications, right? Like making it faster for pickers, right? So they don't need to look through the menu because their e-commerce is, picking up again. You're seeing adoption rates of like 10, 12, touches 14, 15%, right? So there are a lot of people using these systems. Then you have convenience pricing, which is an interesting use case. So it's kind of like when people go into a store and they don't know how much something costs, right? Like, we all know like the level right now, like what we're paying for fruit and vegetables is unprecedented. We had never paid that much, right? And now people, they actually have to choose. Are they paying, $12 for capsicums? How many capsicums? And the majority of people are not really good in like, this is 300 grams, this is 400 grams, right? So they're placing it on the scale, identifies the item, but also identifies how much you have to pay before you go to the checkout. Right? And they're like making this seamless. There are obviously scales where you can still select all of this, but like making it seamless, people just place it down. This is $3.49. Maybe I get two, right? Because it's that cheap. Or maybe it's so expensive, maybe I take one off.
That makes sense. So it's within the fruit and vegetable section, kind of that old scale where it's scale and you have to print off a barcode.
Correct.
It replaces any kind of manual. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. But like a lot of people are not like sufficient in math either. It's like 600 grams times 349. How much is that?
I struggle with that sometimes.
Like, no, me too. That's why I developed it.
Nice. Love it. So what were some of the challenges of doing that, or any kind of projects you work on, the major challenges or barriers you guys need to overcome?
So in the last couple of years, we made a massive shift from hardware to software. So before we tried to do it all, right? Like we tried to do hardware, service, support, installations, right? Like all these operational challenges that as a startup, it's very hard to fathom, right? And you need a lot of funding. You've burned through a lot of funding because you also have no place. You don't know really how it works, right? Like, so you're trying to do it on the fly, you're burning through a lot of money. And in that time, what we tried to do, and I think successfully done, is partnering with companies that can take part of this, right? That take away all these procurement challenges that you have, all the installation challenges. We rolled out all of Australia. That's 70% of Europe, right? It's a massive country. It's nearly the same size as US, right? Like you have some towns that are like 5 hours from the next airport. Some of them is like a 7 hours drive in the middle of nowhere. Yeah. Right? These are operational challenges, and these things are hard for startups. So partnering with the right companies to help you succeeding in that, I wish we had done it sooner.
Right. That makes sense. I imagine there's quite a big element of integration though as well, POS integrations, maybe even ERP integration, I don't know, but is that a major challenge as well?
Always is. You can see like the whole point of sale market is quite concentrated, right? Like you've got NCR, Fujitsu, Toshiba, like they own a massive chunk of that ecosystem, really, because they're not just providing hardware, they're providing software, they're providing ongoing support, right? Like integrating those kind of companies, always challenging, because the majority of those companies have their own projects somewhere, right? Like making it even more challenging. Then sometimes it's about seeing the bottom line, right? For them, it's about billions of dollars in revenue that they want to increase, not so much, hey, we need to increase our SaaS subscription.
Yeah.
Right? So even like their business models differ greatly. So yeah, and then how do you find the right incentive? Because like, you wanted to sell that the software, right? So that's always a challenge.
So have you attacked that from the retailer side, really selling the value to the retailer?
Both. So what we're trying to do is always obviously push the retailer to say to those OEMs, I want this solution integrated, right? So really like direct to retailers and then through partnerships. So that's the other part that you're trying to do. It's like, okay, like how can you benefit from this, right? Like how do you integrate our solution and then you still make a buck? You still have, better offering than your competitors. Because it's a competitive market, right? Like, especially on the software side, there's so many software companies coming out with point of sale solutions.
Like, absolutely. I was going to dig into that. It's a good segue, actually, because I have seen similar solutions. Obviously, everyone's got competitors in this space. And you touched on it a little bit before, but can you dig into a little bit more about your secret sauce? What makes Tiliter really different?
Yeah. More or less goes back to this whole like data-centric approach. So what you see in the past, and you see this with big companies as well, like Google, Microsoft, right? Like they have billions of images, billions of data. points, right? And they're trying just like to bring all of this together, run one machine learning model, and like try to really, crack that with all the billions of data points that they have. What we realized right early is we would never get that data. Never until you have those rollouts, right?
Yeah.
So how can we make the most out of the data that we have? So we applied a lot of like simulation processes. Really, it's about the clean data approach and then augment and simulate everything on top. Say, for example, a bag, right? Like something simple as a plastic bag or like a net, right? Everything is shifting throughout the years, right? Some of our retailers have green plastic bags. Some of them have red plastic bags. Some of them have see-through plastic bags. So how do you do this without recollecting all the data all the same time? So what we've done is we have clean data and then we simulate everything on top. Markings. Some bananas here have chiquita markings.
Yeah.
Right? So how do you do that? Because they look very similar to the banana Cavendish. So you simulate that. And with that simulation, get scalability.
That's really interesting.
So that's what we have done differently, right? Like you see this like with, sometimes cars, right? Like where cars are like traded in a particular area, like San Francisco, Las Vegas, right? And then they go outside of it and they don't know what to do, right? Like they've been not being trained on snow.
Yeah.
Right? So that's the kind of approach that we have taken. And now like we actually have all that data. We've got, hundreds of millions of images. And now like we still run tests from time to time where we compare all these like big data sets versus our clean data approach. We're still coming up on top, like quite a margin.
Nice.
The other problem that you have with that big data approach, you kind of rely that all the data is labeled correctly. And that is just not the case.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Oh, that's really cool. And that's actually another good segue into your goals for 2024. You talked a little bit about geographic expansion, but are there other areas of retail that you feel like you could sort of, now you've got all this data, are there other areas that you are considering moving into, or you're focused on this area here?
Yeah, I think right now it's all about focus. That's what we've learned the hard way. If you're not focused, you have real big struggle, like really providing value to your customers. We saw that in the past when we, shifting gears and like trying to do all different things, then your customers actually suffering from that. So really driving it down, like making sure for us, particularly 2024 is all about like the communication to customers. There is real value that you're saving with this. And right now, when you go through Ulysses, you see so many fraud prevention methods, right? But they are there because right now there's so much friction in the checkout process.
Yeah.
If you remove that friction, fraud will go down.
Yeah.
Right. And that's what we're trying to do. Right. It's like every time someone places down a fruit and vegetable and they don't know what to do, that's increasing friction. That increases the likelihood that someone might steal or might do something that is not innocent.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, great. So moving a little bit more into the market, retail market, what do you think the big opportunities and challenges of 2024 are? You mentioned loss prevention. That's huge news in 2023. Do you think that's going to continue in 24? Inflation, all the macroeconomic stuff. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I think this will continue. I don't see this like easing down anytime soon.
Yeah.
Right. And I mean, if it would, like half of these companies probably would have invested in the wrong thing, right? The thing is like what we always see is like when you're trying to solve or like tackle one problem and then it just shifts from one segment to the next, right? Like now, like you might have solved, say, theft in the chewing gum section and then it moves over to the alcohol section.
Yeah.
Right, so it's just shifting and then you're like trying to install security gates and then just people find another loophole how to get through that, right? So one shift that I would like to see in 2024 and 2025, but retail is slow moving, is really VR and AR. Like I'm a big fan of this. And, when I thought about Scan and Go, and then like Facebook brought out these smart glasses with Ray-Ban, like I thought really this is like the future of shopping, right? It's like where you don't need to scan anything, right? Like, yeah, they're autonomous stores, but we all know they're pretty expensive, pretty pricey. You kind of feel like you're being, in a surveillance movie the whole time, right? Like it just doesn't feel right. And where I like VR, just look at things, put them in a basket. This is how you can do this, like mix matching. I'm a big fan of that. I don't think it's going to come anytime soon, but that's also like what we are preparing. So like with our software, it's all like in an API kind of way. So very similar, very interesting, or like very easy to integrate with all different applications, right? And that's what I envision. Right? It's like smart glasses. All right, you've got fruit and vegetable recognition running already because it's tethered to your phone. So you've got processing power too.
Okay. I'm looking forward to the time where I can just go shopping in my pajamas, to be honest.
So you're in the living room, and that's the AR part.
Yeah, it's the VR. Yeah. How about headwinds for retail tech providers? You've got a lot here at your assist. What do you think the big headwinds are going to be this year?
One of the problems that a lot of companies are facing right now is they are, trying to solve all these problems with 10, 20, 30 providers sometimes.
Yeah.
And you see that when you're in calls with teams, from retailers, they have real struggle like trying to consolidate everything. Because everyone is kind of in the mix with anything, right? It's like everyone does a little bit of that, everyone does a little bit of this. And it just kind of creates that friction point even in their own ecosystem.
Mm-hmm.
So what I would really hope, and obviously this is always tough for startups, right? But sometimes come in and let those companies try to solve more problems. Because yes, there's a unique USP for everything, right? It's we came in because there was no one else offering fresh produce recognition, right? That's why we came in. Now let us expand this rather than going back to your original companies you work with, and those projects will take 3 years until you see any results, right? But with fast-moving companies like ours, like a lot of others here, I'd try to put a little bit more faith in that rather than, going back all the time to your OEM and then, run pilots for 12 months. In the meantime, startups and fast-moving companies use all steam.
Yeah.
Right? So give them a little bit more faith.
Yeah, okay. Right. Improving your ARPU as well, obviously.
Well, we get to make business.
I love it. It's a great concept. Have you got an example of a retail experience you had recently that you really like another tech provider who you think is doing something really interesting, or a retailer who's doing something really interesting?
Well, yeah, it's obviously you see the Amazon stores in the UK. I've been recently to London, so that's a great experience. What I always find challenging though is how they combine experience from a technology point of view with the experience that you want in a supermarket, right? In Australia, we're lucky enough we have amazing fresh produce, really amazing fresh produce, right? If you could, yes, it's amazing, right? You will never find moldy items there. It's always look shiny and they taste good. They're importing it from all over the world, but they're also local grown, right? Now sometimes I go to Europe and I see some of the really great technology stores, but the fruit and vegetables looks it's been there for the last 5 years, right? And then I'm asking myself, is this really the way forward, right? Because at the end of the day, you still need to offer something competitive, not just from a technology point of view, but from experience, right? If you've been to the US, Wegmans is one of those great stores where you go in and you feel something, right? That's very hard to achieve. And if you look at Wegmans, for example, their point of sale system, it's all text-based. They don't even have the GUI. Yeah, no one can select anything.
It's not great,
right? But the experience is just so great. Yeah. So it's always a challenge. I would love to see more VR, and I think I've said this before. But from technology point of view, I really like the Amazon Go stores. It's just they have no experience. Yeah, there's nothing.
It's a little early, isn't it? Favorite thing about Wegmans, the little train that goes around the fruit and vegetable aisle. I don't know what it's for, but I know that. So in terms of key problems, we talked a little bit near term, longer term for retailers. What do you think the key kind of problems or opportunities in the next 5 to 10 years for retailers?
Differentiation. How can you, because if everyone has the same tech, what's the differentiation? And then it comes back to, again, the first problem is what are you trying to solve here, right? It's you said, you want to shop in your pajamas. Well, you can do that, but you still want to go to the shop that has the best produce, that has the best products, right? You still want to do that. So at the end of the day, technology is just something that elevates it, but at one stage, everyone's going to have to say, right? So, focus on your service offerings, right? We see in Germany, especially lots of discounters, whereas in Australia, it's more about premium offerings. In the US, it's a mix and match, but in the US, in the UK, don't really see that many discounters, right? Like Aldi and Lidl coming in now, but in Germany, it's a discounter market. Yeah, it's what it is.
Yeah, that's a fair point, actually. Yeah. Okay, interesting. We're just getting to the end here, so just any other key topics you wanted to bring up? Anything else you want to say about Tiliter we might have missed?
Yeah, I think one of the main things I want to highlight is really about like what AI recognition can do for you, and I think also what it can't, right? And I think there's always like an equilibrium where technology can really elevate you today versus in 5 years' time, right? Like when we start projects, we always start with fruit and vegetables, which is really nice, right? And then there's always that dream, all right, like in the next 5 years, we do one after another, right? Like all these like 3 pillars, 4 pillars, right? Bakery items, how we can bring this together. And this is again, like putting the trust in the companies, right? If they can solve fruit and vegetables, pretty sure they can pretty much solve everything, right? Like fruit and vegetables is one of the most difficult problems in the world, just because not a single capsicum, not a single apple will ever look alike. Right. They're all unique. They're all unique in its own way, right? Like, and that is very challenging. Yeah. Once you can master this, quite sure you can master a lot of other things too.
I like it. That's cool. All right, we're crowdfunding a question here at the end about his favorite ever trade show giveaway. I imagine you've been to a lot of trade shows, so have I. Can you tell us, what's your favorite ever?
I think the favorite one was 2 days into NIF. It was a chilly, maybe -8, -10 degrees, and I ran out of socks.
Okay.
So luckily someone got some waste socks.
I got some socks at NRS. Were they orange?
No. I can't remember the color. I can't remember the color. But yeah, it was just like out of necessity, because otherwise I would have gone shopping. So
that's a good one.
Yeah.
I like that. All right. Perfect. Hey, that was awesome. Thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate it. And good luck with the show and with the future.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Thanks for having me.